like a month or two as a freelancer. So,
Oh, it's streaming live on YouTube.
oh, hey.
Not almost. It's connecting. All right, we are on.
Wow, wow.
Ready to go?
I think so.
Are we
You give it
live?
like 2 minutes. Yes,
Okay.
we are live.
Awesome.
Hey.
Okay. So, welcome everybody to the Growth and Goals and Power of Community event. We have Content Creation 101, and it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Brianna Roller. She is the Jill of all trades. She does content creation, she directs, she edits, she does photography. She does it all. She's had stints at CNN. She was at the Griot. She does Bronx News 12, you name it. So we're happy to have her here and teach us some tricks about uh, um, content creation. I know I would love to, learn all that. And welcome everybody. So here you go, Brianna.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. I'm super, super happy to be here with OPBF and in collaboration with Golden Goals. Like, I think this is just a dope initiative. And I'm just happy to share my experience and, everything that I've done over the last, this September will make 7 years that I've been in the media game. So I guess I'll just introduce myself and, how I started in this whole media game. So I started my journey in 2014. I started in the Bronx. I'm New York born and raised, born in New York City, but raised up in Yonkers. And I went to college. I went to Lehman College. And actually, let me backtrack a little bit. So it really, really started in 2012. Actually, my visual journey actually started in 2012. When I picked up a camera. My father gave me a camera, Father gave me a camera, gave me like one of the first generation models from Canon. And I just kind of I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like I can press a button and take pictures and make things look like kind of dope. So I was just like, okay, this is kind of cool. So I did that for a little while, nothing like professional, nothing serious. Just kind of like took pictures of like the city, flowers, anything that just kind of like really caught my eye. And then fast forward to 2014, like early 2014. I'm real good with my archives, so y'all gonna hear me say it year by year because I can remember everything very specifically. So fast forward to 2014, early 2014 is when I decided that I wanted to take it a little more seriously. I wanted to start to get into events. Event photography. And after that, that's why I was like, okay, I can just kind of do this little freelance thing. Still nothing serious. I was just kind of like messing around. And then 2014, later that year, after I was already 2 years in at Lehman College in the Bronx, I decided that, I thought I was going to go into journalism. And then I had a couple classes with this professor and I was like, she and I ain't gonna make it. Like this is not working for me. And she was teaching all of the journalism classes at the time. And I was like, nah, I gotta go. So I switched from journalism to film and television. And when I finally made the switch, that's when everything just literally like clicked, just literally clicked. And thankfully, where I really started my journey in media, video production, all that was at BronxNet Community Television, which is also on Bronx at Lehman's campus. So I had the opportunity to not only learn the concepts, but also apply it to like real world situations. So anything that I learned in class, I would apply the concept while I was at my internship, and then vice versa. If I learned something in the field or in the studio, I was able to kind of learn about it while I was in class. So I got like double the exposure. Ever since then, since 2014, that's literally just been, that's it. That's literally, I'm just like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like this is it. I know what I want to do. So from 2014 to 2017, I was at BronxNet as a camera operator, director, floor manager, like any studio position that's available, like in a studio, I did. As a PA, greeting guests and making sure that everything was running the way it was supposed to run. I was all up in that. I was all over it. I'm like, yes, this is it. So I was also spent time in the studio, out in the field, and then, you know, getting footage, coming back, you know, to the editing suites and cutting packages and stuff like that. So I was like, that's all I did for like 3 years. And then eventually I left Bronx Net Community Television and I got hired at CNN as a freelance production assistant. So I was there for about 5 months, and then they let me go due to budget reasons. And after that, that started my whole freelance journey, because I didn't really know what it was that I was supposed to be doing or where I wanted to go. So I just kind of decided, well, you know, I have a couple years of experience in production and photography and video and editing and all these different things. So why not just like see what it would be like to kind of do it on my own? And that's what I did. So I freelanced from 2018 up until last year. Well, 2020, in August, I started my LLC. So now I have my own production company. It's just me right now. But I do literally everything from directing, producing, editing, shooting, anything you could think of that has to do with like visuals. I'm like, that's literally all up my alley. Like, so I'm super passionate about anything that has to do with telling a story visually, you know, getting to know people, getting to connect with people. And I really feel like that's part of like one of the major parts of all of my jobs, is really connecting with people and, you know, telling their stories. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of like everybody's kind of like a storyteller, or everybody has a story to tell. And I just like being able to connect with people and to help them, you know, tell that story. So as of right now, most of the work that I do, I connect with like new businesses or new brands that are looking for like a production consultant to kind of help them organize themselves in terms of like, okay, what is it that I want to post in, you know, on my social media? Like, how can I go about doing those kind of things? So that's kind of like where I come in, you know, whether it be if they need photos for their merchandise, or if like the brand owner needs just like some really cool shots for like their social media page or like their website, or if, you know, that's literally where I come in. Excuse me. So I want to warn you all now, I do tend to talk very fast. So if you have any like questions or you need me to repeat anything, I'll try to make this as kind of interactive as possible. But I do tend to talk very fast when I'm excited about something. So if you need me to slow down or repeat anything, just, you know, raise your hand. I think you can do that in Zoom. I don't know. I feel like there's just so many things that you can do and not do when it comes to different platforms of.
We did throw it in the chat, guys.
Throw it in the chat. There you go. Throw it in the chat. Yes. Throw it in the chat. Yes. So yeah, that's basically a little bit about me and what I do. But the focus of this workshop is to teach you all how to create your own content, but also how to think about creating your own content. So as someone who assists other people in creating content, one of the main things that I like to kind of just think about is, well, what is it that I want to produce? Why do I want to produce it? What kind of story do I want to tell? How am I going to do it? And what is it going to look like at the end? So I'll just show you all really quickly. These are I have two cameras that I work with. And this is just for inspiration, because I remember, like I told you all from the beginning, I remember when I was shooting on a little tiny DSLR, and, you know, it did its job. I got some amazing content. But I'm just going to show you all quickly two of my children, I call them. These are my babies. So like I said, I used to shoot with Canon. Canon is still amazing. I'm not deterring anybody from starting with Canon. I started with Canon, but now I shoot with Sony. That's just a preference thing. You know, if you all ever happen to decide to really start shooting, you'll find like your preference, whether you want to shoot with Canon or Sony or Panasonic. Like, there's a whole bunch I could talk about cameras all day, but that's not the point of this workshop. I just want to show you all what it is that I'm using using as my tools to help me create this content. And I'm going to show you all really how to do it, from your phone. So I'm going to take it step by step. So I have my first baby, my first little child. Carmen says, I like that you love to highlight stories. Do you have a mentor who provides insight and guidance? I have a Nikon N65 SLR, but it's only a camera, not a video. I always love capturing candid shots. So Carmen, to answer your question, I actually have a few people that I talk to. It's not really just one person. I found that in this field is so small, like the world is so small. And because I started as what they call public access, which is like at BronxNet, public access is basically like, it's not the big networks. It's like you're really working with the community. Everything is kind of like grassroots. You're working with like, I don't want to say like with real people, but it's like you're working with family, kind of like that in the most like, that's the best way I can kind of explain it. But because I was put in and worked in that kind of environment, I was able to surround myself with a good amount of people that I could kind of like look up to, ask questions, or if I needed help with a project or anything. So it's not necessarily one mentor, it's kind of like a group of people or like specific people that I know, like, okay, well, I have one person who I know, they are like super versed in film production. Yes, right, a community. It's really a community of people that I literally can like, hey, like, I have a question about this. What do you think about this? Or can you look at my work? Or like, I'm about to send this to a client. Can I send this to you real quick so that you can review it? So it really is a community of people. And I feel like that's the best way to really like elevate, what it is that you're doing or the kind of stories that you want to tell, because it's like, and I tell people all the time, like without my community, without my tribe, probably wouldn't be where I am today. Like there's a good amount of people that I can like just pinpoint, like who've helped me to see things about myself that I didn't even, realize. And, so a community is definitely super, super important, especially when it comes to content creation, because you always need somebody to kind of look at your work, just to kind of give an additional perspective or, something like that. Because sometimes somebody could see something totally different than what you originally intended, and it might change up your whole thing. It's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Well, let me try this. So yeah, community is super, super important. So like I said, it's not literally just one person. It really is a community. So yes, feel free to ask any questions in the chat, or if for you all watching on YouTube live, I'm going to be showing some slides in a couple of minutes, and I'm going to drop my email. I can also drop my email in the chat. If you all have any questions, I love answering questions about this stuff. So please do not hesitate. Don't be scared. Ask any kind of questions about all of it. I'm super open. I'm also going to be dropping my Instagram profile. So if you want to, stay connected, have any questions, you can DM me, whatever it may be. So let me show you all the different kinds of tools that I use in terms of making content creation. So Carmen, I'm actually really glad that you mentioned what kind of camera that you have. I'm not too familiar with Nikon, only because I've shot with Canon and now with Sony. But candid shots, I feel like, honestly, that's kind of like my passion, like really, because it's just like, and I was having a conversation about this the other day with someone, and I was saying, like, when you're capturing those candid shots at a party or an event, it's something that you captured once and you're never going to see it again. It's never going to happen the same way. The lighting is never going to be the same. It's literally you capture it once and you just kind of have it forever. So so let me show you all real quick what it is that I use, and then we're going to go into how to start thinking about creating this content, whether it is you want to do a short film, or if you have a small business and you kind of need like some examples or kind of things to think about. And it's like, okay, well, I have this new business, and this is where, I really would come in, because I love being able to help, with concepts and conceptualization and stuff like that. So, but yeah, these are my kids. These are my babies. So this is my Sony, my little baby. This is a mirrorless camera. I don't want to go too much into the differences between the DSLR and the mirrorless. I mean, like I said, I could talk about cameras all day. I literally could talk about cameras all day, but I don't want to take up all that time. So this is a mirrorless, the Sony a7 III. This I tend to use for smaller projects. And just to get technical real quick, I'm going to show you all the other camera that I use. But just to get technical, this camera specifically, or DSLRs in general, they have a recording limit. So you really can only record about 30 minutes worth of content, or maybe like even a little less. I think it's like 29 minutes and like 15 seconds or something. Like you can definitely look it up on Google, but with DSLRs, whether they are mirrorless or they actually have a mirror, these, like I said, I tend to use for smaller projects because you have a recording limit. So I wouldn't use this to, like, if I'm recording a concert or a speech or something like that, because it's gonna shut off, and it's just like can't really do much with that. But this is my little baby. I use this basically for everything. So that's one. And then I have my other one, which is my big child, my big baby. Carmen says, I would love to hear about cameras. Mine is about 15 years old or more, and I have manufacturing. Hey, sometimes if it works, it works. That's my thing. I'm like, and one of the things that somebody told me the other day is like, you can have all the cameras, that you want, but the lenses are really what makes it more versatile. Like I said, I can talk about cameras and lenses all day, about which lenses you can get, which lenses are going to give you, what you want. And that actually really does play a role in the kind of content creation that you're going to be, or that you're thinking about. And I'll get into that in a second. But if it's 15 years old and it still works, I say use it as to the best of your ability, because it's still a piece of equipment that will serve you and serve other people. So, and even like, take it from my experience, my camera, the first camera that I had, the Canon Rebel XT, I actually have it still somewhere in my room. It's somewhere over there in my pile of equipment, but it still works. It still works. I still have all of the batteries. I still have the memory cards and stuff like that. And at one point I thought about just kind of keeping it in the car, because it's not something that I would use every day, but knowing myself, I love being outside, and I love being with people and stuff like that. Even in the times that we're in now, I still do love being with people. But I just thought about keeping it in the car, because I'm just like, well, what if, somebody needs a photo shoot? And I don't know why they would need a photo shoot. I don't know, but I have my equipment and I have it. So the older it is, sometimes it becomes even better because it's vintage and it's something that, most people might not have. And, it's just something that you can really cherish and hold on to. So yeah, Carmen, thank you for that. But yes, so that's my little child. Her name is Elena. That's my first baby. And then I'm going to show you all my other child, her bigger, younger sister. So this is my camcorder. This is Lainey, my other big baby. So this is what I tend to use for if I'm going to be recording a concert, or if I need a second camera for someone who's going to be literally just talking to the camera, I'll use this one, because it gives you it just gives you a second angle. Sometimes when I'm shooting content or if I'm making content, I'm very, very big on multiple angles. I never like just using one camera for something, especially when I'm doing video, or like most of the time. I like being able to cut back and forth between like a medium shot or a wide shot. And I'll talk about that in a little bit when I get into the slides. But this one, it's definitely more production oriented. especially because of like the buttons on the side. There's a whole bunch of like settings over here where you can customize everything. Not to say that DSLRs don't have that kind of customization, but this is really more formatted for like, okay, like when we were able to go to concerts and events and stuff like that, you will see like the people in the production crew in the back. There's a whole bunch of like let me see, whole bunch of ports. These are like XLR ports over here. So this is for like this whole thing, this here, and all of this is all for audio, all of this. So a DSLR, like my little child, my little baby, doesn't have all that. You're not going to have the capability to do those kinds of things in that environment. So I usually will, depending on the kind of shoot or depending of the kind of content that I'm making, I'll either have one or I'll have both, or I'll kind of interchange. So Carmen, an XLR is like, it's basically just a plug for like a cord. My cords are actually in another room, but it's kind of like, I'll give you all an example. So let's say we're at a concert, or we're at an event, or we're listening to somebody talk or something like that. Usually, like anybody who's on stage, they're gonna have a mic. The mic is connected to the wire. The wire is called an XLR. The XLR is then connected to like a board or like some kind of mixer in the back. Like sometimes how you all see like all the wires and stuff that are just kind of like running around. They all have different purposes. Now there's a bunch of different cables that do different things, but all I could tell y'all is that I know what an XLR does. And it basically takes the audio from one point to another. So with something like this, I don't know if you all can see it. So that's basically a plug. So there's three prongs, I think they're called. And actually I can unplug this so you all can see. So this is the male end of it, like that. You see the three little prongs there? That's the male end. And then this is the female end. And it literally just goes like that. Plug it in, just like there. So all of this, you have more audio, other way. You have more audio capabilities. So it all depends on what kind of content you're gonna be creating. And that's kind of like how if you happen to have more than one camera, or if you just have one camera, it's like you gotta think about like, okay, what is it that I'm gonna be working on? What do I need to have with me? So with that being said, I am going to show you all these slides, and this is how we're gonna kind of think about content creation, what it means, and kind of like how to do it. And really more so from your phone, especially if, because there have been a lot of situations, not situations, I've heard of situations where movies have been shot on the phone using an iPhone, shooting at 4K, shooting an entire movie, and maybe it's a short film, maybe it's like a 15-minute film or something like that, but you can shoot movies on your phone. There's a lot of things that you can do on your phone that you have the capabilities to do so. And we're going to go through the steps on how to think about it, and what that will kind of look like. So, and like I said, if y'all have any questions or you need me to slow down, please put it in the chat, because I talk very fast. So if you need me to stop, or if you have anything, any questions or comments, or anything, literally just put it in the chat. So I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. So, let's go to the first one. All right, can I do full? Let's see, can we do this? Yeah, there we go. All right, so now y'all just see this and not my whole desktop. So yes, this is my logo. This is actually something I created back in, I want to say either 2018 or 2019. And I love butterflies. Butterflies are my spirit animal. That is a part of my whole brand. Like that is what I identify with. And I'm also known for like my natural hair, which is natural right now. But when it is out in curly, you know, I just kind of figured I would combine the two because I love butterflies. They're, like I said, my spirit animal. And I was like, well, I know that I want to create something, you know, that I love and, you know, love to kind of look at. So there it is. So yes, that's my logo. And I did see something come up in the chat. Oh, thank you, Derry. So yes, so how to think about this content. Actually, let me close this chat out. So how to think about content production via video. So there's actually like, I think 7 stages, but it's more for film production, but I'm just gonna keep it real simple because we're only here for an hour and it's already about to be 1:30. So as y'all see, I like to talk a lot, so I'm gonna just keep this real short and real simple. So 3 stages of video production. These are just guidelines, basically. You can apply, it's not even application. You literally use this for anything that you're doing, whether it be a short film, you need visuals for your brand, you're doing an interview, whatever kind of video, visual content you're producing, this is literally what you do, like every single time. And it's kind of like, it's not even something that you have to remember. You kind of do it naturally, right? Because it's like, okay, well, I know I want to create a video, or I want to shoot something, or I want to make something. Well, what is it going to be about? What is it going to be about? How long is it going to be? You know, and then you start thinking about like, okay, well, if I can shoot it, how am I going to do it? And then 3, somebody got to put it together. So that's literally, it's a natural process, but I'm just going to take you all through the, excuse me, the more formal steps of it. So yeah, when producing content for brand shooting, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, there are 3 key stages. And like I said, there are actually more, but these are the basic 3. So it just, like it says, just allows us to keep ourselves organized and helps us to see the bigger picture from start to finish. Cause it's like, you don't want it to be where it's just like, oh, well, I have an idea, but I don't know what I want it to look like, so then I'm just not going to do it. It's like, well, no, you have an idea, you know, you got to act on it, because if it's something that comes from, you know, within, especially if it's something that you're passionate about, you want to get it out. You definitely want to get it out. And then that's where, you know, your community comes in to kind of help you execute that vision. So I did see something come up in the chat. Oh yeah, I where I live, it's like, there's a reservoir like next to me. So, and yeah, they actually almost woke me up this morning. I mean, I was very happy about it because they were singing, but other days I'm just like, okay, let me just close the window. But yes, it's very peaceful where I am, thankfully, and, you know, living in a big city and stuff like that. So, so yeah, the first stage of production, and like I said, this is something that we naturally do already. So the first stage is pre-production, literally before all the stuff that comes before we actually decide to start shooting whatever it is. And like I said, whether it be you need to make content for your brand, you're shooting a short film, you want to make some like little visuals for like TikTok or like Instagram, you're always going to be in pre-production. So pre-production, basically you're thinking about your concept. You're thinking about, do I want to have like people in this? Or do I want to shoot an object? You know, because there's always stuff like stop motion, where you literally can just like, and that might be an exercise, you know, for you all too, if you really want to take it a step further, learning how to do stop motion. So it's basically like, you know, you take your object, and I know, let me see. Hold on 1 second. I think Carmen, you mentioned that you have an SLR. So this might be something, yeah, this might be something that you can like practice, or even if you want to do it through your phone too, because that's really what this workshop is about. So either through your phone, or if you do have a DSLR or an SLR, you know, whatever it is, a picture taking device, one project that I sometimes like to do with some of the kids that I work with or would like to do is a stop motion project. So this kind of goes into like, okay, well, what object am I going to be photographing, or like, what is it that I want? What is it that, what am I thinking about? I remember there was a project that I did when I was in college, and I had like these little, you all have ever seen like the little tiny like figurines, like they're super, super tiny, like literally this small. And I remember I wasn't using, it was a film photography class. And I had a great experience, but I was just like, I'd rather stick to digital because this whole developing process, I'm like, this ain't for me. I want to take my stuff and put it on the computer and make my life easier. But yeah, there was a project that we had to do where we had to tell a series, or tell a story basically through a series of photos. And I found that shooting these little figurines and kind of helping me to think about like a story, basically through a picture, I was just, oh, this is kind of dope. So all of this comes back to pre-production. It's like, well, what is it that we want to create? How do we want to create it? How do we want to do it? Do we want to go the stop motion route? Do we want to tell a story with objects? Or do we actually like want to tell a real story with like with actors and actresses? And then I've been dabbling in the film world for the last maybe about 6 months or so. So in the film world, when they start thinking about shooting a short film, and like I said, there's a whole lot more steps that are taken. In the second bullet here, it's basically you have all of the people that work together on a film. And when you watch those credits, when you see the credits at the end of a movie, it's hundreds of people. You got producers, you got the directors, you got the executive, all these different people. So in the film world, it's a little different because you have people that need to find the money so that we can do, the crew can do these kinds of things. But pre-production, that's your first step. You're thinking about, okay, like I'm literally looking at like some of my facial, what do you call it? Face wash and the stuff that I use on my face. I'm like, that could even be a story. Like you literally can take anything and make it a something. So yeah, you got pre-production, and then you got production where you actually start to shoot. And this is my favorite part of everything, because now you have to think about, well, how am I going to shoot it? What kind of angles do I want? What kind of, how am I going to do these things? So I have in parentheses principal photography, because that's what it's known formally. That's what it's known as formally in the film world. Just to kind of give a little context there. But the production part is where everything like really starts to, it's the real execution of everything. Like, okay, I've got the concept. Like, let's say we want to create a video on, I don't know, it's funny, I'm looking at my little deodorant spray. So Dove, we can create a video about Dove deodorant spray. As random as that is, but now we've got a concept. We've gone through, and I'd like to use my little wall over here, so my little display wall. So now we've got a concept of, well, now we've decided we're going to shoot something on Dove deodorant, something like that. We can do, I don't know, maybe we want to shoot a commercial. Maybe we want to do something in stop motion. Maybe we want to, I don't know, whole bunch of different things that you could do. But now we've got our we've kind of talked about what it is that we want to do. And then when it comes to production, and this is where your phones come in, this part right here. So I have an iPhone. I don't know too much about Android, so my apologies in advance. But basically when you're shooting, and if you all ever really decide to start getting into like photography, or if you already are, then a key point to remember is that no matter what you're shooting on, everything stays the same in terms of what the concept is. So, for example, I know, Carmen, you said you have a Nikon. I'm shooting with Sony. As long as you understand, not you specifically, but as long as like a person understands the basic concepts of how to shoot, and what kind of shot that they're looking for, nothing changes except where something is on the interface, like how to get to something, like how to change, I don't know, your shutter speed or your ISO. That's camera talk specifically, but just taking it back to, I know what I can do on the iPhone. Like I said, I don't know much about Android, but I'm gonna just show you all really quickly. So when shooting with an iPhone, and I'm gonna get really technical really quickly, but I'm gonna try and keep it basic. So when shooting with your phone, with like, well, actually more so with your phone, the best way to kind of go about things is to think about, okay, so we have this concept, we have this idea, what do we want it to look like? So in the film world, this is where the director of photography would come in. So I like to just, kind of mix it back and forth, because it's all the same stuff. It's the same concept. They're just applied in different areas. So in the production part, this is where we become the DP or the director of photography. This is where we decide, okay, we've got a concept, we've got an idea. Now, how are we going to shoot it? What is that going to look like? So one of the most dope shots that I always think about, and something I always reference when talking to like my friends, or like when I'm on set or something like that, like the Matrix shot, right? Like he's like leaning all the way back and you got the cameras going in and things are kind of flying and all these different things. They had to think about that. They had to decide like how were they gonna do, how they were gonna do this. So in production, when you start shooting, you kind of start thinking about those things. So just to go over really quickly, there's just so many different ways. Oh, hold on, I think I saw something in the chat. Oh, yes. Okay. Lost my train of thought real quick. Yes, shooting. So when you start thinking about, okay, we've got our concept, now we're gonna figure out how we can execute. There's so many different shot types, and this is something you all can look up on YouTube, and what all the different shots kind of mean in terms of telling the story. So for example, if we are looking at, like, let's say somebody's on a beach or something like that, or if they're out in the wilderness, and I'm just going to kind of give you different examples of like how different shots can tell different stories when we're thinking about content creation, what you want your end result to look like. So for example, let's say we have somebody, one single person, and you can kind of visualize it in your head. You got this one tiny little person who's in this big forest surrounded by super tall trees, a lot of leaves, maybe they're evergreens, they're just super huge. And you've got this one tiny person that's kind of like looking up to the trees. That's just to give you a visual. That would be a wide shot, because we're seeing all the trees and then we're just seeing that one single person kind of like alone in this environment, right? So you've got a wide shot, then you've got like a medium shot. Maybe now we're watching a commercial. Maybe it's a family who's at home eating dinner, something like that. And now the medium shot is from basically like your stomach or like your chest up. Then you have something where you get real close and personal, where you have the extreme close up, which only really, and I'm not showing you the best example, but it only really covers from like about the top of your head, right about here. Like your forehead is always going to get cut off up until like your chin. Definitely Google this. That was not the best example. I'm just kind of giving you all a visual. But these are the kinds of things that we start to think about when we're like legitimately shooting, like shot types, what do we want it to look like? There's a bunch of other different kinds of shots that are out there. Like I said, the Matrix shot, where it's kind of like, it's like you've got the camera moving in and he's moving around and you've got the camera going around like this. Like There's a whole lot of technical names, but those three that I mentioned, wide shot, medium shot, and an extreme close-up, those are like your basic when it comes to people. If you decide to work with people in your content creation, it's the same thing when you're shooting an object. Like the deodorant that I mentioned, you take a picture of it, you can have a wide shot of it. Like right now, it's literally sitting on my dresser. So I could have like a wide shot of it sitting on my dresser, and then I could go real close where I get like only the dove, like right here. So it all depends on what you want it to look like and what your end result is going to be. And the end result is the third part, post-production. Post-production is really where things start to come together. So I'm going to go back to that example. So we have the Dove, our little deodorant can, our deodorant spray, or whatever object we're thinking about. Maybe we're going to do something in stop motion. So we've got our idea. We've got how we're going to shoot it. Let's say we want to do, I don't know, we might want to do a series of wide shots, or a series of close-ups, or a series of extreme close-ups. And then when we start to put it together, that's where it comes in post-production, literally editing. That's the final stage of content creation, because you've gone from pre to the middle, and now you're going to put everything together. So post-production is, I really feel like, how you can really tell the story. One person who comes to mind, and it's really funny, I've been in media for the last couple of years, but I do not watch television. I don't watch films. I'm not good when it comes to like, oh, hey Bree, did you see such as? No, I didn't. I'm sorry. Like, I really am in my own world most of the time, and I be with my kids, my little children. So I'm not really good with watching.
Oh, we're not getting Starbucks. We'll get Starbucks later.
TV and stuff like that. So it's funny, but the one person that does come to mind is
You want to pay the right?
He's a director. And he has a way of telling the story, which is totally non-sequential, which is kind of dope, because in post-production, you always think, well, okay, well, we shot this in sequence. We shot from point A to point C. Now it's literally just going to go from point A to point C. In his case, he usually, well, not usually, I don't want to say usually because I don't really follow him that way, but I just know of his work, and for this reason specifically. So post-production in a Tarantino film, okay, I'm bringing it back to the deodorant can, or our other object, or our other person that we're going to be, shooting and kind of working with. In his films, or in his body of work, sometimes his stuff might start at the middle of the movie, and it's kind of like, okay, wait, well, what's going on here? And then towards the middle of the movie, it might go back to the beginning, because you want to understand what happened at the middle, so that we got to go back, and then at the end it all goes from here to there to there, but it makes sense because the story was pulled and kind of directed in a certain way, so that at the end you can kind of understand what actually happened from different points of time. Excuse me. And that's where post-production comes in. So post-production, you could really you could do a whole lot of stuff. Like, your shot doesn't have to look the same way that you shot it. That's where, like, for example, in Avatar, that I think that movie, or I had heard or read somewhere that movie was in development, I think for like 5 years or something like that. So it's like you had a lot of different factors to consider. It's like the actors, the makeup, the effects and stuff like that. So all of that comes into post-production, where you're thinking about what kind of effects do I want to use. Sometimes there's a technique, an editing technique called color grading. So for example, if you're looking at me right now, it's pretty like what your eye is seeing, right? Like my orange or whatever color this is, like my skin color, the color of the walls. But in post production, color grading, like let's say we were like just using me as an example, color grading, maybe somebody would take like this footage like right now and maybe give it like a red filter or something like that. So like when we think about red, you know, we might think of like fire and passion and, you know, anger maybe. And it's like, okay, well, why is she red? Like, is she mad about something? Like, what's going on? So post-production is like the most, I don't want to say the most important, but that's where everything starts to come in. So it's like, okay, we've got our shots of our Dove deodorant can. Now, how are we gonna put it together? How are we gonna make it make sense to us and to other people? Then sometimes it don't have to make sense to other people. If it makes sense to you and you like it, sometimes that's what it is, and that's all you can do, and you release it, and that's that. So like I said, I have an iPhone, but I do know that, and I'm going to show you all, if you do have an iPhone, I don't know if it works for Android, like I said, excuse me in advance, but iMovie, this is something you can do right from your phone. iMovie is dope because you don't really have to do much. As long as it's in your phone, it'll, like, I'm actually have it open right now. So, and I haven't used iMovie in a very, very long time, but I know straight from your phone, you can literally just put different clips together. So let's see, I could give y'all just a quick little overview. So it's like whatever you have in your phone, let's say we did really like real life shoot that the Dove deodorant can, we would have all of our clips in our phone, and then we would just go to, you know, create a project. Seems it says, well, are we going to make a movie? Are we going to make a trailer? You just go up there, make a movie. All of your clips are in here. It's just a whole bunch of selfies in here right now. I don't have anything to actually put together, but you take all of your clips, you lay it, you know, in your, what we would call a timeline. And then you just start cutting and pasting, you know, well, not really cutting and pasting, but that's what it is. You're cutting your footage together. And then once you do that, you have your final product, and then you're ready to export. Some of the major editing programs that most professionals use right now are Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere. There's also Sony Vegas, DaVinci. There's a whole lot, but I think like two of the top or most known are Adobe Premiere and Final Cut Pro. And what I like to use is Adobe Premiere. I used to edit footage in Final Cut, but I feel like now that I've moved to Adobe Premiere, I feel like I have a lot more options. And it's kind of like the same thing that I encountered with, you know, upgrading my camera equipment. It's like I had my little Canon DSLR, you know, there was only so many things that I could do at that time when I, you know, first started shooting. But now that I have, you know, my little baby, I could do a whole lot, and I'm still learning it. I only got the camera back in October, so I haven't had it for very long, but I could tell y'all I'm very, very satisfied with my equipment choice. So yeah, that's literally how you go about creating content for whatever. And I know Daya had mentioned that there are some people who are looking for like how to start creating content for like your small businesses. Words of advice is just like, you just have to think about, literally, you just go through these steps. What is it, except you go through these steps and then you kind of add like your business in there, like your brand. So pre-production is like, okay, I know I'm selling this, or I know I provide this service. I know that I have an audience that likes this, and I love using social media for business and brand purposes because you can connect to a lot of different people. You can talk to a lot of different audiences. So in pre-production, it's kind of like, okay, well, I know my audience likes this, or I know I like to make these kind of things. What kind of content do I want to create? Do I want to make like a slideshow of my merch, of my merchandise? Do I want to create, or do I want to have like a videographer come in and like create like a little highlight reel of the stuff that I'm selling? Or do I want a photographer to get behind the scenes photos of me, you know, in my store, or me with my products, or, you know, stuff like that? So literally you just go through these stages. And then once you decide like, okay, this is the kind of content that I know that I want to make for my small business, then you execute and you go into production. So you're either working with a photographer or taking your phone and making it yourself. Super easy. I know sometimes there's always a discussion of, sometimes it's like you'll shoot something and you'll show it to somebody and it's like, oh yeah, I shot that on my phone. And people are like, what? Like, you know, and then there becomes a whole thing of like, oh, well, you know, camera phone quality versus like DSLR quality. Honestly, sometimes you can't tell. I will say that. Sometimes you cannot tell. There are things that I've seen where people have shot on a phone and I'm like, wow, like what did you use? And they're like, oh yeah, I just shot it on my phone. I'm just like, wait, what? But you know, it is a phone, so you're gonna lack some capability of customization and how you want things to look instead of actually shooting on a DSLR. But the whole point of this workshop is to, you know, kind of tell you all like you literally can do it from like right here. The only thing is you just got to think about like, what is it that I want it to look like? You know, what do, and especially for, you know, small businesses and brands, or if you're a new brand or if you've been around for a long time, it's like, well, what is it that I want to show people and how can I go about creating this content? And basically using these steps from, well, not even steps. It's something, like I said, it's something we do automatically. What do we want to do? How can we do it? And what is it going to look like to put it together? Literally those 3 steps. And like I said, you can do it straight from your phone using your camera. And just to get real technical, real quick, a tip that I like to think about when I am using my phone, it does depend. So if you're going to be releasing something, for example, on Instagram, there's a couple of different ways that you can think about your execution. So they have, you have IG stories, you have the reel, what is it? There's IGTV, stuff like that. So the orientation, that's the word. The orientation is always, what is this? This is vertical, I think. Yeah, this is vertical. So vertical orientation. So when you're thinking about the content that you do want to make using your phone, that's another thing you want to think about. Well, where is it going to be released? Because if you do something where you literally just want to shoot for Instagram Reels or something like that, you're going to want to leave your phone this way because that's what that format supports. Now, if you're shooting something this way, maybe now it's just something you want to put in your IGTV or something like that. Or I don't know much about Twitter. I don't really know if Twitter really has like all those capabilities, but also for Facebook, you know, the same thing. Facebook, I think they have their version of stories. I haven't been on Facebook in a while, so I don't really know, but it all depends on where you do want to release this content that you are shooting with your phone. And that's something I always try to let people know about, especially if you're going to be sending a video to someone. Like let's say you shoot something on your phone, you put it all together, or maybe you didn't put it together. Maybe you shot it and you sent it to somebody, but you know that you want your video to be this way. You have to shoot this way in order for the final result to be that way. Because if you shoot it this way and then you bring the footage in this way, it's going to be harder for the editor to turn it that way. So that's something I just always like to throw out there, especially when people are sending me stuff. I always tell people to shoot it horizontally. That way I don't have to worry about rotating footage or making it look like this or, you know, anything like that. So, so yeah, those are just a couple of tips when it does come to like executing your content creation and making it look the way that you know, want it to look. So, let me share with you all this last little page. This is all of my like information. So these are both of my Instagram handles. My email is on here, and this is my website. So like I said, I am so open to answering any questions, comments, anything. Let me see, it is about, yeah, it's 1:55. So, so yeah, let me see, let me go through this. So Carmen, you said, what about when you want to build or broaden your audience? Any advice? One thing I always like to tell people is if you are on Instagram, that's really how I've been able to really build my audience. Like, I know there's a stigma about like social media and all of the things that come with it, but I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and it's just like, if you know how to use it, you'll be good. If you know how to navigate the algorithms and all these different things, and of course it takes time, but one of the things that I found to be very successful is really writing like good captions or really just talking to people. That's where I really found to really be successful is you know, really connecting to your audience and like showing them who is behind the content creation and letting them know like somebody's like actually there with them and like wants to have like a real conversation with them. That's one of the things I'm very big on, and not just like, you know, and of course this is all preference, but I'm like, yes, I do provide a service, you know, I provide services to people, but I also want people to be able to connect with me like on a more personable level. I don't want it to just be like I'm just showing up as your videographer. Like, no, I want to, you know, establish a connection with you, you know, for long form. So broadening your audiences, I would definitely say make use of your hashtags. If you have a brand, or if you're starting a brand, or like there's key things about your brand that you know you would want to catch people's attention, you can use that as a hashtag. Like, for example, for me, I always like to say, I'll put like the visual butterfly in my list of like hashtags, because I'm like, that's my brand, that's who I am. I also like to put like Black female videographer or Black female photographer, because sometimes people are literally looking for that. So, you know, whatever it is that you have, if you're, you know, selling merchandise or, you know, whatever it is, you literally can say that, like, hey, I do such and such. I'm putting it in my, like, if I'm trying to think of examples. Well, whatever it is that you're currently working on, or anything that you're trying to sell, or like anything about your brand, it's like you could just think of like key things, like 3 top things that you would want people to know without, you know, maybe if they are in your profile or whatever it may be. These are 3 things that I want you to know about me that I can do or I provide. So I know hashtags have been super helpful over the last couple of years. Like, when I first decided to make my profile public, I was super scared, because I'm just like, I don't want people seeing me in the street and then, you know, people know that that's me. Like, I'm a very private person. If I like traveling with a hat and sunglasses all the time, because I'm just like, I just want to get to where I'm going and go home. So it was kind of like a daunting experience, but I was like, after a while, I just kind of got over it. And I'm just like, if you see me, you see me. I'm here. Whatever you need to find, my profile is already open. But yeah, I would definitely say hashtags are super helpful in terms of broadening your audience and the kind of content that you're creating too, and what kind of hashtags you're using. you know, it all depends. Like, you just go through those 3 stages of, all right, this is what I'm creating. This is how I'm going to do it. Now I'm putting it all together. And who do I want to speak to? Who do I want this content to speak to? And I think hashtags have been, like I said, really, really helpful in terms of broadening the audience, gaining more traction, and you know, just allowing people to see what it is that you do. So yeah, Instagram is super, has been very, very helpful. And I do often think about, well, like, what if Instagram, like, it crashes? Like, it crashed a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, well, I gotta wait for it to come back. So I would just wait. But you know, that's the way of the world right now, of social media, and being connected and staying connected. But like I said, Instagram is your friend if you know how to navigate it and really, really work it. Like, to be honest, a lot of the jobs that I have now have come through Instagram. So it's kind of like, does Instagram pay my bills? In the lowest of keys, it kind of does, because that's how I get my clients. People reach out, they DM me, or sometimes they find my email through my profile. So it's just like, Instagram is very key in my business deals. But yeah, like I said, if you know, you all, because it is 2:00 now, but if you all have any questions, you know, definitely feel free to email me, feel free to DM me. If you are on Instagram, both of my profiles are there. The first one is my personal one, and the second one is where my portfolio is, like all of my work, and the same thing on my website. So Marty and Day, I don't know if we have time to open it up for questions, because I know it is 6:00.
We do, you know, we do. We don't have we have a hard time to cut off, but we're all about staying a little extra if everybody has a little time.
Okay.
I see Carmen has a hand up, so we're gonna ask her to unmute if she has a question.
Okay.
That was pretty dope, Brianna. How you doing? Everything good? Feel good?
Yeah. Hi, Brianna. So thank you so much for your presentation. Like, you actually sparked a lot of memories. You know, talking about your camera, because I used to work with my Nikon 65.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, before this, I was working with, because this is an SLR,
Mm-hmm.
but again, this is like 15 years or older.
Yeah.
I have another SLR, but it's a 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
And it's also a Nikon.
Yeah.
So like, I haven't even used the 35 millimeter because, I mean, film is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since the SLR, you know, and now with phones, so you definitely sparked a lot of memories, especially when you said you know, like taking pictures of flowers or, you know, of people. That's something that I always did.
Yeah.
And also taking me back before, like when the internet, you know, started coming about, and then you can, you know, like Google stuff or look up things on YouTube, but now it's a lot more. So, but you sparked a lot of stuff. I actually, there was 2 things that I was in January, I discovered working with the iMovie, because iMovie has been around, but you know, like after a while, it's another app and you don't work with it. But then something has been lingering in my mind, and I just wanted to reflect and go back to a time and take a video. So I like did with my regular video, like a time lapse, and then uploaded it to the iMovie. And then like I was able to incorporate music in there. So I just definitely am curious about working with the phone, iMovie, and incorporating music into that. I also, I know it's a lot, thank you, working with poetry. So like I took some classes once a week, that ended. And then I thought, well, you know what, I think I would like to work on a video, and kind of like what you were explaining, but taking like not so much middle shots, more like wide shots of like, you know, a scenery, the water or something, flowers, of course, capture, you know, like myself every once in a while, but like to incorporate my poetry into that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, any advice on, I guess, just continue working with the camera and the video?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, as soon as you said poetry, the first thing that came to mind was, images of. I'm not sure what kind of poetry you do, but any images, any pictures or video that's going to support the words of what it is that you wrote.
Okay.
I know just based on my experience in, I mean, of course, not poetry, but just being able to cut, like when I would go out in the field and would have to uh, put video to the reporter's script to make it make sense for like the little packages that we watch on the news. That's really where I kind of learned like how to put, like if the reporter said the red dog is crossing the street at, I don't know, Blue Street, you show those things because it's like, okay, they say it, but people want to see it. So first thing that comes to mind, especially because poetry is an art form and you can go so many places with it. Like if you decide, like what kind of poetry do you do? Or what kind
reflections, like I guess reflections, because it's also therapeutic. So like things that have happened in the past, and then you're kind of not, I don't want to say reliving, although there are times that you kind of relive situations, but I think it's like things that you need to do, but they're also inspiring. It's not so much that it's just for myself, it's inspiring for others to hear, because it's like once others will hear your little story in a short time, it's like, oh, okay, then, I didn't understand it. I didn't realize that, so like more of a, I guess it would be reflections.
Okay. So literally the first thing that comes to mind is you notice the birds like outside of my window. So because you are speaking from self and reflections and like kind of like more spirit, something that's more spirit led.
Yeah.
You can maybe kind of think about like calm ocean waters, forest vibes, trees, sunsets, sunrises, or if it's not necessarily that, maybe it's not that positive, you can go the other route where you can think like more on the darker side. Anything that really comes to mind, it's just like whatever you really feel or whatever you've written, anything that comes to mind, like this is something, I know I want to see, you can start compiling that. Or even if you decide to go out and shoot, you decide to go, if you go to like I think a park would be like dope because you can get the trees, you can get the water if it's a park that does have water or a body of
you know what I think I can't figure out how to, like, sometimes especially on Instagram, you can see like people will share something and you see like an image or a video, but there's like a voice over of themselves speaking. So that's one thing, that I haven't figured out.
So that comes from, you can do like, let's say you wanted to, like right now, you want to put a video to one of your pieces. So what you would do is record the poem. You would record yourself speaking the actual poem, and then you would have an audio file.
Okay.
And then if you go into iMovie, you can add your audio file of you speaking. You can add your music if you decide, if you want to go that route. And then you go ahead and you add your B-roll. That's what it's called. It's called beauty roll. It's basically all of the supporting imagery that not sometimes, I mean, for this instance specifically, it's the imagery that's going to be supporting your piece, your poetry. So yeah, you can literally you can make it a whole day. Like you could go to the park, you can literally record yourself in the park, you can speak your poem, record your poem, have that as an audio file that's already on your phone. If you do want to just do, I feel like, you giving me inspiration here.
Yeah, like you gave me inspiration, like just in the very beginning. But yeah, like hopefully that, like I'm taking away, I can imagine how many other people are, like taking away, whether they know or not know. And then you also mentioned Instagram, like two things. Instagram, initially, you know, I created Instagram as a way of connecting with family or friends. But then now, especially during the pandemic, I've actually been able to network, discover things. And that's how I've been able to discover a lot. Poetry, I discovered that, taking classes through that.
Yeah.
So I see it now as a great, like, you know, networking, discovering and marketing tool. So, and I was going to ask about if you're private, to transition into public, so that way, and I guess you can decipher who you want to follow or not have, you know, like follow you. But yeah, it's just like, I think that would, I mean, I know that this is like a short time. Like if I have any questions, I took down your information. I could probably reach out to you, because this probably requires a little bit more than just, because like all the things that you mentioned, I feel like it's like 101, but it's like super, like it's like exciting. So I know a lot can be shared.
Yeah. And I try to keep it as short as possible, especially because we are on Zoom and I love being with people and when I'm teaching and talking. So I try to make it as compact and understandable as much as possible. So I'm glad that it did translate well and that you were able to, you know.
Thank you. My camera, so I'm like, she's old, but
it's that, for example, I have a laptop from, I graduated high school in 2012 and she still works. I haven't gotten rid of it yet, only because of course there's still things on there that I need, but I'm like, it's still functional. And just, you know, as a moving through, you know, different things and working with equipment and whatever other pieces of equipment that do come around. It's just like, if it still works, don't throw it away. Because I actually was very close to the camera I got after my first camera. That's the one I used for like a couple of years. I got the Canon 7D. So I was shooting with that from 2017 up until last year. And I was considering selling it because I was just like, I don't want to shoot with this little thing now. I'm like, I got the ability to shoot in 4K and all these different things. I don't need that. But it did come in handy because there's a church that I work for in Brooklyn, and we were directing, well, we had a guest come in, and when I'm, you know, like when I'm on set and doing different kinds of things, like I said, I always like having different angles. Like I never want to shoot anything with just one camera. So I tried to secure a third camera because I already got my two little babies. Tried to secure a third one. The plans fell through and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I had already told everybody like I wanted this whole setup, and I'm like, I can't just show up with two cameras. I'm like, what am I going to do? So my Canon came in handy, and it did look pretty good. It didn't look the way I wanted it to look, but nobody would know that because I did what I had to do. So that's just, you know, whatever equipment that you do have, regardless of how old it is or where you got it from, or if it's used or if it's new, I'm like, if it works and it still points and clicks and it still turns on and you maybe only need a couple of batteries to charge it, I'm like, you might as well make it work, because, you know, some of this equipment now, thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's just like, but I have something that produces almost, maybe not the same quality, but I can still make it work. And I'm like, if I can make it work, that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. No problem.
Yeah, you had also mentioned the shutter speed and aperture.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't work with it a lot, because I know I don't work with it a lot, but like I remember when I wanted to capture like a water fountain, and I wanted to capture the flow, like a stream, and then I also wanted to capture the water like frozen, like a droplet. So then that's when I looked up, how do I work this, like with the books, when you had the books of Photography 101 or Photography for Dummies. That's what I had gotten, so that way I could figure out the shutter speed and was able to capture both, which was pretty awesome.
Yep. And it's just like you said, the more you work with it, the more you'll just kind of know, like the next time you do want to capture something like that, it's like, oh yeah, I already know what to do. I know the shutter speed needs to be at like 1,000, the ISO needs to be at like 200, and maybe the aperture needs to be at like 5.6 so that I can get like that clarity. So yeah, I definitely know what you mean. Just like, how do I do it without it looking crazy and blurry and just really not good? So yes, I definitely, and I could talk about, and that's one of the things that I always tell people like who are like maybe starting in photography. I'm like, look, if you know shutter speed, ISO, and your aperture, I don't care what kind of camera you use, you could pick up a Panasonic something from some time period. It's all gonna be the same. It's just the type of your execution and where the button is. Like the Sony that I have now, Sonys are notorious for having like crazy menu systems compared to Canon and Nikon. So that transition alone, I'm just like, there's 70 different menu items for 5 different things, and I don't know how to get to this quickly. So I'm just gonna take my time and make sure like I remember the workflow. So, but literally it's just like once you know those 3, I'm like, you literally can go anywhere, like anywhere.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So I'll reach out.
Yeah, sure, for sure. Just send me a DM, send me an email. I'm very quick with responses because I'm just like, yes, what's going on?
Thank you.
How can I help?
Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to it. No problem.
Thank you, Brianna.
Yeah.
So that kind of concludes our session for today.
I wanted to give one comment. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So on the OPB Foundation Live, Keen Lambda's 1975, they said, agreed with how you can record movies on the phone, and this is very informative.
Ooh, yay. Okay, very
All right.
Right.
So thank you everybody for coming out. Don't forget, if you want to rewatch this, you can rewatch this on YouTube. You can go to growthandgoals.com and pull it up, or you could go right to YouTube and see if you can pull it up through YouTube. It might be easier to go to the website because we'll have it up there in a little box. You just click on it and watch at your leisure. So we want to thank Brianna for coming out. Remember, she gave you all her contact info. It's also here on the YouTube Live. So if you want to go back and look that up and hit her up, like she said, she's open for questions and comments. And, if you got some good business to send her way, hey, working with the best. So next week we have speaker Dr. Andrea Noan, who will be going over math can be fun. So we're going to be helping parents talk to their kids about math, how amazing it can be. It's not something that is boring. Obviously, math is the universal language of the world, of the universe. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be going over some things. So make sure you guys tune in, bring your kids, bring the parents, and we'll go over some amazing techniques to teach children math and just to help them out with remote learning, because we all know it's been kind of stressful the past couple months. So we want to really help the parents really sit down with the kids and let them know math is fun. We could figure out what's going on in school, and we can make it fun, and we can make it something that everybody can do together as a whole family. So that's next week. And then after that, we have strategies for becoming a successful STEM student, the power of science with Dr. Yasmin Daniels. So you guys want to come in for that. We're going to be talking about different tools to enable young adults to become successful with their academic and eventual professional careers in the STEM pursuit. And then after that, we're going into May 1st. We'll be kicking it off with Marty, which is me. We're going to be going into logo design and branding. I have over 20 years of logo and branding design. I have a lot of high profile clients that we'll talk about what I use in their cases, what I use in the corporate cases, what I use for mixtapes, different strategies you can use to build your brand and your logo and your online presence. And that'll actually kick off the entrepreneurship workshops that we do. So after that, I'm going to be releasing the schedule for the entrepreneurship workshops, which include legal needs, how to build a website, free online resources, business plan making. So it's going to get real interesting. Financial literacy, how to do your taxes, how to form an LLC, a S corp, a C corp, what business formations you need that work best for you. So and how to use those to take advantage of the tax situation. So we also have financial individuals coming in to talk about investing, how to invest your money, how to set up your 401k, how to set up your Roth IRA, different ways in investing for your retirement and for your future. And then if anybody has any requests, we could potentially take some requests, but we're also going to cover fashion design. We have some really awesome people coming in from the world of fashion to talk about how to build your brand, how to build your stores and your online presence. So it's going to get very interesting, very fun, and very informative. So if you're looking to start a business, you're in the right place, starting here with Brianna and building your content, and then using everything that we do afterwards to help build your presence as a business owner. So we want to thank Brianna. We want to thank the Omega Phi Beta Foundation, Growth and Goals, Why Not Care, and everybody who showed up today. Thank you, Carmen, for your amazing question. We're looking forward to seeing everybody next week. So until then, have a great weekend, everyone.